Maxine? Oh, I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on there. You're mute.
Hi there, how are
Yeah,
you? We are live. cutting it to the wire. Let me just let's just kill the background music and then we can get started. Okay, hi everyone, and we are live. Welcome to another episode of In the Spotlight, where we shine a light on entrepreneurs, SMEs, and innovators. Now, when we talk about brand, there's lots of views, and sometimes people can not realize the importance of having a really great, not only personal brand, but also a business brand as well. I'm actually delighted to have with us Graham Pugh from Brand Voice Agency today. How are you, Graham?
Yeah, not bad. Thank you very much. Just still getting used to being back from holiday. I came back from Lanzarote a fortnight ago, so still quite getting used to it not being lying around eating and then spending the rest of the time when I'm not eating, digesting at the moment.
Oh, so it does take a while to settle down. Once you completely switch off, it does take a while to get settled into day to day. And yeah, absolutely delighted that you've joined us, and really excited about hearing more about your journey. And let's just start with an introduction to yourself and what inspired you to become an entrepreneur and business owner.
I think really it was I just kind of came on it by accident in a way. It was kind of a natural progression, really. Having spent most of my life in advertising, and kind of progressed through the ranks in advertising. And there aren't many people. I remember my mum rung me up when I turned 40, and she said, "Are you all right?" She said, "Because you've always told me there's no one aged over 40 in advertising." But so actually, I became old in advertising agencies. But actually, my experience is a superpower in running my own business. So it was the natural thing to do. So I just suddenly found I was doing a certain kind of work, which was helping brands at the kind of top end of their formulation. So a lot of startups, a lot of companies at an inflection point. And I suddenly thought, well, actually, this isn't what I've been doing before. This isn't coming up with ideas for concepts for advertising. Yeah. And all I had was a portfolio website. So it was like, I need to create an entity to encompass the work I'm now doing and also be able to bring other people in. So it had to be more than me. It had to fit the kind of briefs I was answering. So it kind of, as I say, it kind of grew. It was almost like the least ambitious thing I'd ever done. It just kind of happened, and it seemed very natural.
I think the natural things are always the best, because you feel like, oh my gosh, it doesn't feel like it is an effort, but it just feels like it's coming, as you said, naturally. So in terms of what were some of the initial challenges that you faced when you started the venture?
It was where's the business, really. But I mean, I guess I already had some business, which is why I set it up. But the challenges remain the same kind of challenges. Is how do you keep a consistent pipeline of business? How do you get stability? I'm always very envious of friends I know who've got kind of ongoing retained clients that they know they've got a year with that client. The kind of work I do doesn't tend to be that way. So that's the challenge, is to keep that pipeline moving and keep a consistency, not be from feast and famine, but it is always that I'm either doing three things at once, or one thing at once, or suddenly seven things at once, and no things at once. It's very that's the kind of the nature of the business. But in that sense, it's kind of exciting, keeps you on your toes, I guess.
Yeah, tell us about Brand Voice Agency, just and your journey.
Yeah, so I mean, Brand Voice Agency, as I say, came out of this me being kind of referred. Started off by designers who were doing logos and identity and creating brands from scratch, saying we need somebody to do the words. And then when I got involved, it kind of almost flipped the process around, and we said, well, actually, let's start with the words. It's not just words; it's what is the thought at the core of the brand. So it was much easier for a designer to work with that. If you start off and say, what are we all about? We stand for this thing. We've got an idea at the core. Then they're designing against the brief rather than just half a yard of design. So, so kind of what we exist to do is to say that we have a line that says how a brand speaks is important as how it looks. So people very easily miss that part out. They just, they think, okay, we're going to launch a brand. What color will it be? What will the logo be? Let's choose a nice typeface and let's build a website. All of those things you need, but how is it going to talk, and what is the brief for that? It's very easy just to come up with a bunch of adjectives and say we are professional yet friendly, or whatever it might be. A lot of bland brand things, but actually just sit down and do the work, do the thinking at the start, makes everything so much easier. So that we exist to kind of give brands some way of differentiating themselves, some distinctiveness in a market, something that sits at the core, which is then expressed through language, but also through design, but language being the primary thing. And it's just something that people haven't really given enough thought to. And we find that people, it's a bit of an eye opener for a lot of companies.
For our listeners, I'm going to put you on the spot now. Could you give an example of a not so great, what you call kind of bland, and then and a couple of points that would make something really stand out?
I mean, I suppose I would say we do a lot of work in the financial services marketplace, and a lot of financial services companies are very happy to kind of hide in the herd, I would call it. It's very easy for them to say, well, we are just, we're the trustworthy professionals. We are, and if you look at the sector as a whole, there are generic values that you expect from the sector. You expect kind of conservatism, caution, trustworthiness, professionalness, whatever. But the trouble with that is, if you adopt those values, you don't stand out, because those are just the values of the pack.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, when you get down to it, the most successful financial services brand are incredibly differentiated. A Direct Line is very different from an AA or HSBC or whatever. They've got very distinctive personalities, or new players like Revolut or Starling or whatever. They stand out very distinctively. So it's in the specifics. It's not how you define the sector, it's how you define yourself against other people in the sector. How are you going to stand out? So I've worked a lot in financial services, and at one point I was an ECD of a financial services specialist agency. And what I used to joke about is, you could sell anybody a picture of the city of London at night, tinted blue, and they'd all be in their happy place, and it's like, the trouble is, you just look like everybody else, and it just doesn't stand out at all. I won't name names, but you could open it, especially if we did a lot of work talking to IFAs. You could open a lot of publications or see websites aimed at IFAs, and they all look the same. A lot of them just look exactly the same. It's just incredibly samey. So it's that boldness to say, what makes us different? Why should you choose me rather than choose the competitor? And the question we always ask is, do you want market growth or market share? And if you're the brand leader, it's fine to grow the market and be quite generic. But if you're looking to increase your share of it, you're going to have to stand out and have a reason to be chosen.
Yeah, that's really insightful. I've made a couple of notes that I'll share with the audience afterwards. So how do you, because there's lots of brand agencies, and so what would you say makes you stand out? What's different about Brand Voice Agency?
I suppose it's a combination of being kind of focused on the language and I suppose there are other people that do that, but it's not just like copywriting. It is the language and building a brand from the verbal and rational and conceptual point. It's that, and we have a quite innovative flat pricing model as well. So we do our kind of core services at simple flat prices, so people aren't it's not how long is a piece of string. It's not just we'll start the meter running and see where we get to. We're gonna, we know, we'll do things within a certain length of time, but we're not going to charge you by the hour or the day for these kind of set pieces that we do. And also, because I've been around quite a long time, I do a lot of hands-on work, but I've got a fantastic kind of black book of contacts. So I can bring in some very good people. So it's for what I find with our clients, kind of pat themselves on the back in a way that they've kind of circumvented the system. They found a shortcut to get the things that they need. It's kind of, we're really, they'll say, we're really glad we found you. It just, we didn't have to go through that whole process of talking to an agency where they present their senior people, then we never see them again, and we get quite junior people dealing with us. We have to pay for their building in an expensive part of London, and we go through a lot of their process and whatever. It's just kind of, they say, we're glad we found experts who've got lots of experience, who know where to find the other team of experts, but we're not paying for anything on top of that, and it's a much more streamlined approach.
I love that, because when we go into business, and yes, we're founders, but collaborations and partnerships with really talented creatives, designers, you just can't beat it. Just can't beat it. And can you just imagine the value that comes from that kind of business model as well? I'd imagine it's quite immense for a client.
Yeah, no, it really does help. And we've got some fantastic relationships, not just with kind of individuals that we bring in, but also partnerships with other companies. So, we've got a partnership with a really good email people, with SEO people, and with photographers and whatever, video companies that we can kind of plug in, and they all work through us. Yeah. So, it's quite, the more we've gone on, because we've been going for 3 years, we've kind of built up those relationships with people that we trust, and trust is such an important part. I mean, that's the nervousness with any client when they go on to either, I mean, particularly for our larger clients who've got to a certain point and they want to change direction. It's a very nerve-wracking situation. I'm going to spend some money. I'm going to change things. What if it doesn't work? What if people don't like it? Letting go of your kind of comfort zone or your familiarity is difficult. So knowing that you've got people who are grown-ups and that get it and that will be there for you and have done it before, is very reassuring.
Yeah. And how do you handhold the client and help them navigate that change when they want to do something different?
I mean, it is really about collaboration and explanation. It's not a question of disappearing down a hole and coming back and saying, here's your one option, trust us, it'll be okay. It's about talking through the reasons for it and telling as storytelling, really. It's like, here's what you told us, we took that, and here's how we would express it. Here's what we think are the important points about what you told us. And we very rarely just say, here's one idea. Usually there are several options. So the way we tend to work is we'll have organizing ideas, and we'll say, here are 3 or 4, maybe 5 organizing ideas with a little manifesto or a story. I mean, manifesto sounds like a really pompous word, but a story that says, this is the story. And if you see their eyes light up and their chest puff up, you're striking home. It's like, oh, that feels like us. We'd like to be that. That's the best of us. Then you're in the right place to start from. So it's about showing, holding their hand it's a slightly patronizing way of putting it, but it's showing that we're collaborating and listening and feeding back the best of what we've heard, and giving them a treasury of words. It's like a slightly wanky thing to say, but a sort of treasury of words, or arming them to go out, giving them things that they feel happy saying, because it's going to be their thing, that it's their tool that they're going to use. It's going to be when they write a page on the website or make a presentation or make a phone call or write an email, that they've got this way of speaking that they've learned, that they've adopted, that's been crystallized for them. It's all them. It's not us kind of inventing it. It's us, kind of harvesting it from what they've given us.
Yeah, that's amazing. What advice would you give to anyone that's thinking about going into media or brand management?
I'd say be cautious. I mean, if you're doing it for yourself, then you have to beware that it's a roller coaster, and it's, if you don't have experience in the background, then it's going to be difficult to have that resilience and the contacts to get the business. Although obviously there are some very dynamic people who are quite young in the business who can, and I know a few examples of people like that who are scarily brilliant at doing that. But I would say work for the best people you can and learn from them is the best way of starting. I'm very much a believer in the slippery pole version of advertising. or advertising or marketing companies or client side companies, but the better you work for, the more they are to fall back on. But also, learn from the best people. And I've been very lucky to have some people that I can still quote today, people who've taught me bits and pieces along the way. And you take that with you, get a good apprenticeship, really. I think people are often a little bit in too much of a hurry to think, there's a whole TikTok thing of I'm an entrepreneur, I'm doing the, and it sounds great to say it, but you need to have some grounding to take with you, because the people that we're talking to, the people who are going to spend their budget, want some reassurance that you haven't just read it in a book or been on a course and learned from it. You've actually got some experience of having done it and some success stories to back you up.
Yeah. That's just when you were talking just then, it's just made me think about a conversation I had with my daughter, and we were talking about whether would you employ someone that goes off and gets a university degree, or would you favour the person that's done the apprenticeship, so they've got the work experience and the qualification? What would you say?
I mean, I wouldn't want to say either of them are wrong. I think it's just down to the individual and their attitude and their ability to learn. Really, I mean, I've got two children who've both got degrees. I wouldn't diss their degrees, but
I've got a degree, so yeah, it serves.
I haven't personally. I went straight from A levels to a vocational copywriting course, and but I kind of missed that. I didn't have that experience, that academic experience, that roundedness, those 3 years of getting into an academic subject. So there are so many different ways of doing it. I think what I love about what I do is it is very much down to the individual, that it doesn't really, qualifications don't really matter. It's really talent. It's really ideas, talent, ability with people to build relationships, and resilience to kind of build a business. Those are all the qualities that you need. So qualifications are kind of irrelevant apart from what they give you. What will you learn from them? I mean, I learned a hell of a lot. I helped my daughter with her sociology degree, and that was fantastic education for me. I thought, this is fascinating. It was great.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for that point of view, because it is quite important that our youngsters can feel that there's no mandatory way that they have to go. So thanks for sharing that. Where do you see your business in the next 5 years, Graham?
God, I wish I knew. I wish I knew. Because as I say, it's such a roller coaster, and I mean, I know where I'd like to see it. I'd like to see us have a bit more of, as I say, of that stability, of a bit more kind of ongoing relationships. But having said that, I like the way that it works, and we like the way it works, to see a project through. I mean, as I said, we don't have any kind of retained clients, but we do. Our best clients are the ones that come along and have the brand voice piece, and then say, because we've built that voice and we know it intimately, then we're trusted to do lots of other pieces as well. So then to write the website, to write video scripts, to write advertising, write LinkedIn posts, whatever it might be. So we do have that kind of long tail of things. So in terms of in 5 years' time, it would be nice to just think we've just grown, really, and we've built our reputation even more. I mean, I think we have a decent reputation now, but it's I suppose it's always, you always want to be the first port of call. And I've been spending a lot of time on SEO recently, trying to teach myself that. I mean, it's every day's a school day, as they say, but so all the time just trying to establish ourselves, be the preeminent voice. And I suppose in 5 years' time I'll be quite old, so it'd be quite nice if somebody come along and take it off me. Would be quite nice at that point.
You're aging like a mature wine, so they say.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
What's the best piece of advice that you've received as an entrepreneur?
Gosh, I mean, I belong to a networking group called Business Leaders Family, who full of very, very wise people. And the thing that they keep banging on about, and everybody keeps banging about, is niching, which is difficult, because it's very much at odds with what I kind of grown up with in advertising, which is an idea is an idea, and you can apply it to any sector and any area or any medium. Whereas actually what clients want from a a partner is to know that you are specifically focused on their area. They're much more comfortable. So I attended an event the other day, and they were saying about, they gave an example of a video supplier who said, we do videos, and then they changed that to actually, we do corporate videos, we do videos, and they ended up saying, we do videos for the higher education sector, very, very specific, and their business doubled. So actually so that advice about niching is interesting. It's not one that I've necessarily embraced a lot, although we have kind of got specialisms in particular areas of financial services, professional services, and healthcare. I kind of think it is a niche to say we look at the verbal side of branding, but it's not a unique, it's not a very, very specific niche. So that's the advice that I keep trying to take with moderate success, I guess.
There's still time. It's a work in progress, I would say. What advice would you give to budding entrepreneurs and innovators?
I'd say, what is your offer? What is the innovation that you're offering? And question that. I mean, I'm a big fan of Dragon's Den on the TV, and it's really interesting seeing how they analyze a business. And you end up absorbing a lot of the lessons from that, and suddenly go, well, that's easily replicable. That's not a unique idea, or that's not scalable, or that's an early, So I think you need to ask. You have to be your own, Theo Perfides or whatever. You have to sit there and analyze your own strengths and weaknesses. Is it a business or is it a job? Are you a freelancer, or are you really a business? And those are kind of hard questions to answer, because everybody, as I say, wants to romanticize it. Everybody wants to believe that they are an entrepreneur, and it sounds great to say that. And you can, it's like I've got my Rolls Royce and I'm only 21 or whatever, and you see all these things on TikTok, but it's mostly bullshit anyway. So so I would say be cautious, because it's not necessarily the way to have the most comfortable existence always. You're very responsible. If you get a job, you can do your job and switch off, and the business is the business of business is someone else's responsibility. So it isn't for everybody. So I think it's just a question of asking yourself the hard questions, really.
Yeah, just on that entrepreneurial journey, I liken it to an ice. Have you heard about the iceberg, where you've got the 10% above that everybody sees, and as entrepreneurs, it's that 90% below the surface, those late hours that nobody sees. That's kind of how it's likened to, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would say. The more I learn, the more I realize there is to learn. I mean, which is exciting, but at the same time, it's like, blimey, I didn't know to know that as well.
Yeah. How do you maintain work-life balance?
I'm quite strict about it. I posted on LinkedIn last week about how I had a stroke in 2017, and that really focused me on where I get my energy from, and where I draw the line. So because I work from home, I have a faux commute, I call it, every morning. So I go for a walk every morning. So I have that break. I get up, I have my breakfast, I go out, and I come back an hour later, ready for work. And I feel, and that's as if I'd travelled into central London, but much nicer, because I can listen to a podcast walking around Bushy Park. So it's very nice. So I don't tend to work crazy hours or weekends or bank holidays unless I absolutely need to, because I don't think you need to. I think that's the benefit of experience, and having been, knowing what you're doing. It's not about working hard, it's about working smart, which sounds like a glib thing to say. It's not that we don't work hard, but it is. I think it is important that self-care is an important part of being an entrepreneur. It's very easy to spend all your hours. I mean, I've done that when I've been building bits of the website myself. You suddenly think, my God, the time has just gone, and you can just really hammer yourself to do that. So you have to be careful, and I think it's about drawing clear lines. But particularly because of that experience of having a stroke 7 years ago, and feeling a tremendous amount of fatigue at the time, when you've got to knit your brain back together. It was a lesson of, like, where does your energy come from? And actually, the breaks are as important as the sprints. That it's like, that's what they say in training for athletes. The rest days are as important as the training days. So you need to get that balance right.
Gosh, absolutely. So, you mentioned there about going for walks every morning and listening to books and listening to podcasts. So is there a book, podcast, or a resource that's been particularly influential for you?
I'm not really very good at that. At business books, I never really kind of take to them. I just find that I pluck bits from random places. What was it? Oh, it's slipped my mind now, but I'll just get little bits that people say. Like, there was a thing I was listening to an interview with Paul McCartney the other day, and he was saying, when you chase things really hard, you don't tend to get them. You've got to let things come to you, and it's a very tricky kind of counterintuitive thing to say. But I recently read his book, The Lyrics, all about every song he ever wrote, and it's just interesting how he trusts the process. He trusts that he's got this thing coming to him, and obviously he is a genius, and he has this God-given gift, so you can't compare yourself to him, but you can learn certain things from him, which is just being in the zone. I mean, it's something I always talk about is write drunk, edit sober. So to try and give you that space to play. So when you're in the idea stage, just put everything down. Don't judge it. Don't second guess yourself. Don't say, oh, that's no good. Just put it all down, and then the next day you can come back and you can be somebody else. And you can then say, well, that's rubbish. But actually, if we do this with it, you can be. I think I wrote another post about this. You can be your own Lennon to your McCartney, and you can be the optimistic one who puts it all out there, and the other one who's cynical and says that won't work, but it will work if you twist it and add this bit to it. So it's just allowing yourself space to be free to come up with things is so important.
Yeah. I love that. I love that expression, write drunk and edit sober.
I think it's Hemingway. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was yours.
Yeah, I wish I could claim credit. Yeah.
What's one message or lesson that you'd like the listeners to take away from our conversation today?
Oh my God. I didn't know you were going to ask something like that. One lesson.
Well, it could be or two. It could be whatever you think.
I think there is a thing. I don't know if you've ever heard this thing. Is it the Helsinki bus station theory? That this thing, it's about basically a lot of people go down a journey and they think, well, so for example, it'd be an artist. They start off learning to draw and they do some nice etchings and they go, oh, that's just like Michelangelo did 500 years ago. So they give up and they go back to the bus station. Whereas actually, when you look at the map of the bus routes, they start off, they all go to the same stops, but as it goes on the journey, they branch off and branch off and branch off. So there's this thing about staying on the bus is the expression they use. So if you continue and follow where your interests and talents lead you, you'll find your own individual niche. And that's coming back to that niche point earlier. So it's very easy to say, well, I've started, I could say my own case, I've started off as a copywriter. Am I as good as the greatest copywriter ever lived? You could just say, well, I'll give up. Yeah, but I've got an interest here. I'll follow that interest. And then you become a specialist. You develop your own little world. And that's, as I say, it's staying on the bus. So that I always thought that was quite good advice when I've heard it.
I like that, the Helsinki bus theory. I will share that afterwards. And how can the audience and listeners contact you if they want to learn more about your agency and what you do?
I mean, I'm all over LinkedIn, probably too much. My wife says, why are you on LinkedIn again? But it's quite useful, and it's become a really because I work from home and my network is virtual. Having that is my office banter a lot of the time, and I've met some amazing people, some incredibly useful people. So that's where you can find me. I'm very happy to connect with people and to interact with people on LinkedIn. Obviously, our website, brandvoice.agency, if people want to get in touch that way. But definitely LinkedIn is the easiest way.
Yeah. Do you do webinars, or do you hold any events for that anyone?
No, I probably ought. I haven't done. This is the first live thing I've done. And I don't know whether you saw, I posted yesterday about how I was nervous about it because it's just putting yourself out there. I've got a lot of friends who've been doing videos recently, and I've got somewhere in my office here, I've got one of those ring light things, and I sat down and did it one day, and I just thought, I can't bear it. I didn't like it at all. So I haven't done anything like that, but I think it might be a good idea to get into it, because I've been thinking about offering training and webinars and things. So it might be something that we do. Yeah.
Well, let's let this the spotlight be the start of that adventure for you, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today, and No, I hope I helped you to feel at ease.
Yes, you did. Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
And I'm looking forward to seeing more of your posts and your sharing of knowledge on LinkedIn and other platforms. And we're at the top of our time, Graham. So I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been great.
Take care.
Cheers.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.